We arrived to the doorsteps. I could not speak Russian. I only spoke Chinese and Tartar, because in those years, Russian was already being forgotten. And we were standing at the gate. In the meantime, they were trying to find my mother. We were standing at the gate, and the lady passed us. And I looked at the gate, and I remember even as a child, my mother had a very special coat that she still wore, and it was during the winter time. So I tell to my sister, I said, you know, in Tartar to her, because she spoke Russian, I already couldn't speak Russian since we were separated. I said, I think that was Appa, meaning mother, in Tartar, had the same coat that the lady passed. And of course, my sister was 2 years younger, so she was very quiet, and she just said, mm-hmm, and that was the end. Mother crossed us. She looked at us, and she just passed us without even recognizing, stopped at the corner, and then suddenly turned around and was trying to approach us. And the moment she was approaching, I've seen the lady was approaching, and the tears started. And I was telling to my sister, I wonder, why is she crying? Because we did not know that she was our mother. So that was the meeting of my mother after almost 10 years of separation. My own character, I was not a human, ladies and gentlemen, and this is what communism is all about. I became a child of revenge, a child of despair, a child of hate, like millions and millions others in my own situation. My sister, thank God, she was more with the granny on the way, so she was safe from that misery. In the concentration camp, I had experienced malaria, tuberculosis. I also have almost lost my feet because of this, what do you call the bite, snow bite, or what it is? Frostbite. And many other infirmities that it's too much to describe, and I don't want to burden you with that. So finally, after 2 weeks, my mother receives a lady. I'm skipping along because I don't want to hold you up. After 2 weeks of our arrival, on the third week, about 11 o'clock p.m., a carriage came and took us to the airport. Somehow her friend, Lily, Mrs. Lily, she was married a Gestapo type, which is from Soviet Union, but didn't say anything and made the arrangements somehow to see that my mother and us, at least to be safe, to take out of Urumqi into Shanghai, Lanzhou and Shanghai. And the only reason is because she found out through her husband, who was not aware that actually she's still friend with my mother, that my mother had to be executed because she knows too much. So as a result of that, we were saved because of this lady. If it was not for her, trust me, none of us would have been here. We arrived to Lanzhou. From Lanzhou, we went to Shanghai. In Shanghai, I ended up in the orphanage home because there were no place to go. My mother ended up in a household where she cooked and washed and sewed, whatever it is, until finally, one of our relatives, under the Morozov, which is very well known in Russia as well, found that we were still alive, whatever is left of the family. And he was the one who introduced us to His Holiness, that is known, which is from Shanghai, John of Shanghai. Maybe some of you have heard about him. When we arrived to Shanghai, we spent about another 2.5 years in the orphanages of the John of Shanghai. And this was the first time that I was introduced, so-called, to humanity, meaning religion, and to be what is really human person should have been, especially when it's growing. In 2.5 years, I was changed. I became human in many respects, although I was always lived with sort of precautions because I could not trust people. We in prison camp were so being, how shall I say, exhausted with the exhibitions of pictures and maladies that in reality we would have been a perfect exterminators if we had to go grown up into more ages. And suddenly we hear another disaster that already the communism now was approaching to Lanzhou into Shanghai and Beijing. There was the last ship of the United States, LSD 242, I still remember that name, the number, who ended up at the port of Shanghai. And we were told that Baptist, or the Baptist as we call him, or of John the Baptist, he said he made the arrangements for the refugees to get on the last ship in Shanghai port in order to be taken to the Philippine Islands. So 5,000 people has been transported and saved from the misery of the communism regime, even in China. To the Philippine Islands we arrived, it was at Tubabao, the Isle of Tubabao. There were no homes, no nothing, except that the military brought us, you know, the camping that they use in the military, like a little.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tents. Thank you. Well, we thought that maybe in Philippines, Tubabao, we will spend just maybe a month or 2 months. It didn't happen like that, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. We spent there 5 years of agony, infirmity, death surrounding, lived with the lizards, lived with the snakes, with the scorpions, we name everything. And if it was not for the United States, who was very kind to bring us food or sending food, that was the only reason some of us survived. Out of 5,000, I believe only 3,200 people survived. Then came the problem where the Philippines already was, because they gave us the island, it was a temporary. We were supposed to be transported into other countries of the world as a refugee. Nobody will accept, especially the United States will not accept. Because we were considered, being born in China, we were Chinese birth, not the Russians, not the Muslims, or not the Tartars, but we were considered to be as a Chinese race. So that was the rules and laws of the United States. So from there onward, after 5 years of agonies, people started to accept Australia, Suriname, Africa, Dakar, Italy, and I believe Suriname as well, and the last one was Paraguay, a place of hell on earth, if I can tell you the truth about it, because I lived there. And the way they did, when there were boys, the men and the children with the boys, the government will accept. Women were hardly being accepted because they were looking for labor more, and they didn't want much of the women. So my mother, my sister, and I ended up in Paraguay. When we arrived to Paraguay, we ended up in Chaco. Chaco is the worst place in the world because except hardship and hard work and misery of infirmities, it's beyond even explanation or even to tell you the story. When I became almost 16 and a half, I told to my mother, I said, I have to leave this country and try to get, even if I have to walk to the United States in order to survive, I have to take that chance. At 16 and a half, uneducated, totally, I could speak languages, but I couldn't write and read still properly. I had to learn Spanish as well. That was another language that I learned. After almost, 2.5 years, I managed to scrape a little bit of money. My friend, God bless her soul, she gave me a beautiful pink outfit so that I can arrive to the United States. And she also gave me $5 American because I had none of that. So through Paraguay to Argentina, Chile, which I ended up also with the communism experience as well, and many other Latin American countries, including up to almost to Cuba, I managed to coming to this country when I became 17 and a half. It took me 1 year walking from one country to another to arrive here. At 17 and a half, 18, I had to learn English. So for 2 years, I worked as a maid, going to school at the Strayer Business College. I think most of you know now it's Strayer University. And for 2.5 years, I've been scraping the money to bring my mother and my sister from Paraguay, which I did. The sad part of this Paraguay, I don't want to go into details, but I'll tell you one of very unpleasant situation that the communism already, not the socialism. Socialism has never been and never existed. In order to camouflage communism, the word socialism has been applied. It's not to scare the innocent, although intelligent people, but because of innocence, what is really communism is all about. When my mother finally received the papers that I managed to do, according to American rules, I had to pay a lot of money into the bank, which I did. I had to make sure that I have an apartment with 2 or 3 bedrooms because my sister and my mother. So I followed the rules and I did that. When my mother went to the embassy in Paraguay, at that time your American ambassador was by the name of Coons. That's all what I can remember. Which of the Coons, I don't know, and honestly, I don't want to know. When she came there, he addressed her according to her title and said, "Madam, why do you have to go to the United States? Why don't you go back to Russia where you belong?" Knowingly the turmoil that you went through. Because sooner or later, America will have the same problem. That was 65 years ago, ladies and gentlemen. I know I don't want to offend anyone with these words, but I'm telling you the story of a life, not just of me, but for millions and zillions who went through this hell on earth. So my mother arrived, my sister arrived, and today, especially today, I remember 65 years ago when she came into the United States and told me those words. Is it possible that Mr. Coons already knew that we will have to face what we are facing on today? I don't want to scare anyone, but all what I can say, if we are not going to elect Mr. Trump or President Trump for the second time, which will hopefully give us another 4 years of breeding and trying to sort of calm down the situation we are presently in, and to erase, exterminate, if you want to use the word, this radical, what is happening to us, we might save the United States. But if we lose the United States, there is no place where to go. There is no place where to run. There is no place where you can live a human life and at least to sleep at night. And one of the last examples that I'm going to say, when they have arrested, I'm very bad at names, but I know, you know, the man who was arrested here at 5 o'clock in the morning, one of the, and then prosecuted almost, whatever it is.
Roger Stone.
That's right. When I heard that, I said, it started, the communism is here in full force. And this also reminded me of awful words when ex-president of the United States, Mr. Obama, or President Obama, said, We will transform America at all cost. Well, transformation has begun 15 years ago, with his 8 years and even prior. And unless we do something today, actually yesterday, for today, the end of the so-called sweetness, niceties, religion, schooling, proper schooling for the children, everything will go astray, and there is no place where to hide from the misery of a communism. Please forgive me for being so elaborate.